Welcome to day 1014 of our DSO journey. Are we still calling it our DSO journey? I guess we can call it our focus journey, right?
I like calling it BitClout DSO focus journey. Like,
How
but
about
one
just
word, like
how
BitClout
about
focus
how
DSO.
about the focus on focused show?
Yeah, I don't know. Seems kind of cliche.
All right, so yesterday we talked a lot about focus and we had some suggestions. We also made some posts about it, as did other community members like High Key, like Darian Parrish, like Alex Velatis, like Robert Graham. So there's definitely a lot of feedback that people are putting out there. And the good thing is that Nader is listening and he's taking that feedback to heart because he made a long post, I believe it was last night, outlining some of these concerns and explaining what they plan to do. So I do want to touch on some of those. Are you happy to see that Nader is responding to the community here?
Yeah, I read over it just probably about 20 minutes ago, and it was a lengthy post. He kind of went into like some things we said, and like you said, some things some other people said, and he really it sounds like he's really listening and he's making changes based on what he's getting from the feedback, which is exactly what I think I wanted to see happen.
Now, so one of the things that we actually talked a lot about in our video and a post, and other individuals within the community as well, I think Robert Graham was one of the main individuals that discussed this, was the exclusivity for post to earn. So we discussed this yesterday. The white paper said that in order to maximize your incentives on post to earn, you're going to have to exclusively post on focus. That means no more posting on X, no more posting on Instagram, no more posting on other social media that you have linked to your account. You must post exclusively on focus. And I didn't like that idea. You didn't like that idea. We thought that it would probably de-incentivize, is that a word? De-incentivize,
Yeah,
disincentivize
yeah,
people
good.
from signing up because they're going to realize that if they really want to maintain their presence on other social media, that's going to hurt them in the new app. And they're going to, these top influencers who might consider joining will be like, well, that's crap because I'm going to be behind the middle tier and lower tier influencers who might give up their other social media. So Nader actually responded to this and said he agrees. He's heard this from a lot of people and they will not be doing this. Instead, they're going to focus, of course, they're going to focus on encouraging people to pin a post on other social media and also perhaps post a link to their focus.xyz account every week in order to maximize those incentives.
Yeah, and I think this is is a much better, I guess, decision. Uh, uh, Nader did ask like what our thoughts were, like should they make people post like once a week or something with a link to focus. I don't know. I mean, I think that if that's just one of the ways that people can earn points or get the maximum rewards, I think that's okay. But I like as long as it's not forced upon people. I know like just with my account on X, like it's mostly like politically driven. So like having to post maybe something about DSO or focus every week, it some people might be turned off by that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to post about focus. I think I definitely will be, but I think that others could get turned off just because their audience might not be crypto inspired, and posting every week like that might be kind of a turn off.
So
But I think as
here's a
long as it's
solution.
optional.
I have a solution for that. When they say post a link to Focus, perhaps it shouldn't have to be a link to like, oh, join Focus. You can join. It's a new decentralized social media. Maybe just posting a link to anything on
Yeah.
Focus could
Yeah.
count. So like maybe I could make a post on Focus about, let's say, since we're political, maybe it could be about the 2024 election. Like the pros and cons of each
Like
candidate.
Donald Trump stinking or something, right?
Yeah, and make a post and then on focus and then link to that post on X and say, this is an article I wrote about my thoughts on the 2024 election, link to that focus post, and that should count as, sending traffic to focus to maximize those incentives.
Yeah, and just for the record, like I wouldn't post anything about Donald Trump stinking. I think that's kind of pathetic.
Okay. So you mentioned something yesterday and that was that Nader and the team should do a X space to promote focus.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I believe that X could be a huge driver of new users to focus away from the whole referral bonus thing. And I think the referral bonus is going to definitely drive people to create their own spaces on X about focus. But I think that if the core team and if Nader or Ash or Ed Moss they hosted or they maybe like Nader said we could host a space and like we don't have to be the people to do this. In fact, like it might be better to have other people. But we could have a space and all of the core team as well as some of the members that have been on DSO for a while can be there answering questions, but also just like discussing what focus is all about. I feel like if you can really get some of the big influencers on crypto X or crypto Twitter involved in something like that, it could have huge ramifications on bringing over a lot of the crypto crowd. And I know Ed Moss said that like this new Focus app is really to appeal to the creators and not the traditional crypto people. But I really think that you need both, and you need both at the same time, not just the creators first and then crypto later. I think you need both at the same time. And so I feel like a crypto or a focus inspired X space where you have crypto influencers, but you also have regular influencers involved could really be a hit and could really kind of teach people what focus is, since it is going to be a little bit confusing, I think, to people who are outside of crypto, but also bring them on board.
yeah, for sure. And Nader, for the record, said they're definitely going to do a space. Suggests that we could perhaps host it or attend it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it would be great. But moving on, so more focus to people who have been on DSO. This is something we've been pushing. I think so. We talked about this yesterday, and we said, I'm probably going to get a lot of focus token because I have a million X followers and I get a lot of engagement. High Key has a ton of Instagram followers. They're going to get a ton of tokens because of their following and engagement they get. But there's also people who have been with DSO for so long. It's people who have been posting almost every day, at least every once a week over the past 2+ years, right? These people
I
should be weighed, in my opinion, higher, at least on an engagement level, right? And probably a lot higher since engagement on DSO is a lot lower than on X. At this point, I think they should be weighted higher. And Nader actually said they are planning to do this. They're going to have join to earn categories, and one's going to be specific to DSO so that you will get a large reward if you have been a meaningfully active creator on DSO.
Yeah, I love this. I'm glad that he's doing this because there are a lot of people that don't have large followings on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube who have been integral parts of DSO over the course of the last 2.5 years. I could list dozens of them. And and these people might have a strong following on DSO, but a strong following on DSO might be 1,000 followers or maybe a certain amount of engagement, whereas 1,000 followers on X is pretty much worthless, I think, probably with a join bonus. So not worthless, but probably only worth a few bucks. So I do think that him doing this, Nader deciding to do this, I think that will make the old time DSO users, BitClout users a little bit happier and a happy base, I think is definitely a something that we want to see moving forward because these are the people that are going to teach the newcomers the ins and outs.
Yeah, and moving on, Robert Graham, he made a few interesting suggestions. At least I thought they were interesting, and so did Nader apparently. One was he suggested that focus be very clear about the creator referral of 5% commission on the revenues generated from the person you refer. Um, of course, this is guaranteed for a year. It could extend longer, but right now it is a year, and they have to be clear about this because people will feel misled if they aren't. People will get confused if they're not, and I'm glad Nader said they are planning to be very clear on that. And he also said that spreading out the reward, like we mentioned this too, the I think it was you that mentioned this. You made a post where the top reward was what was like $5,000 per week.
The top user per week would get $5,000, according to these numbers, based on I think $100 million in generated investment into Focus. 5,000 for the top, and then I think the next 100 get, I think it was, what was it, $100, right, or $500. Uh, I suggested that they break that top one up, maybe make the top one $2,000, and then maybe the next 10 could be 750 or $1,000. They might pay out a little bit more, but I know that from my perspective, like say one person, and that account could literally be us, since we have a lot of followers. Every week, if we dominated and got that $5,000 reward, it would be discouraging to a lot of the other people who might think, oh yeah, $500 is good to be in the top 100, but I'm so close to getting that 5,000 and I'm only getting 500, like the second or third or fourth or fifth person, right? So the top maybe 10 or 11 should get over $1,000 or more, and the top account maybe 2,000. Because if you're stuck in the top account week after week, raking in those $5,000, I think a lot of people are going to kind of be envious of that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Nader agreed too. He said they're definitely gonna look into modifying that. But like you said, I think, 5,000 might be 500 if they only raise 10
10 million.
million instead of 100 million. So I think we had to wait and see how much they do actually raise.
Yeah,
It,
so something on the referrals, like something that would be amazing to me in my head, if I'm referring a lot of people, is to extend it to like maybe 2% or 1% for many years after that initial year, because that would really get people's minds who are like in the investment mindset thinking, wow, if I could just refer like one big account for the next 5 years or 10 years, I could be earning a decent living off of that, or maybe not
yeah.
living, but a decent sum of money. I think it's difficult because then the tokenomics are kind of thrown off. But I would say if Natter could extend the referral bonus, maybe make it like a halvening, like every year it halves the percentage or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting. I I think going down to 2.5% the next year, I think something like that could work. Or you just, you say like 0.5% for a certain length of time. Something even like something really small where it's not really going to affect things too much on Focus, but I think it will entice more people to refer people just because they know that it's this reoccurring income that's going to last longer than a year.
I'm telling you the halvening idea, because then after a year it's 2.5, then it's getting so minuscule. But if the platform is growing, then the smallness of that percentage
Yeah.
isn't going to be as small,
And if the focused coin is going up, the same's
right?
true. If focus token's going up, when it gets reduced to 2.5%, you might actually be making more than you were in the beginning at 5%. But that's something for the core team to think about. So they also touched on what happens if a post is deleted in the post to, not the post to earn, no, the ads, right? This is in regards to the ads. Like say Goldberry is getting a ton of traffic. She posts about music, and I decide I'm gonna create my own band. And I would never do this because I'm terrible at music. I it wouldn't happen. But let's just pretend it
Maybe
would.
maybe you could be the intern for Goldberry, the
I could be
Goldberry
Goldberry's
band.
musician intern. Yeah, that's right. But let's just pretend that I start my own band. Goldberry has all these music followers. I want to get my music on her page. So I'm going to pay her for a post. Maybe it's $10 for a post. Maybe it's $2,000 for a post because she's so popular. I do that. But then Goldberry makes that post. She collects that $2,000. What's stopping her from deleting that post? And this was a concern that Robert Graham also brought up. And the solution to this, Nader says, it's two layers deep. And one, it's going to have protection where it's going to check at the end of the day, and payments are going to be delayed the next day, 24 hours afterwards. They're going to be delayed, and it's going to check to make sure that post is still up. The other check is that every person who's selling these ads, you're going to be able to see what type of impression ads on Goldberry's page get. So I'm going to be like, okay, most people get on average about 20,000 impressions when they buy an ad with Goldberry. I think it's worth $2,000. I think that's going to be good for me. So if Goldberry is deleting those posts, those number of impressions will be greatly reduced. Thus, I'll be like, oh, she's only getting 500 impressions. She must be deleting posts. Then, or they're not showing for some reason. It's definitely not worth that $2,000. Another suggestion that Natter said they might allow for creators to do is sell their ads per impression rather than per post. And I like this. I think this is good. I think it helps people, if especially if you have the option, helps people delineate and figure out like
Well,
what am I going to get for my ads. Go ahead.
like I like it, but I don't like it initially. I think initially
Yeah.
it's gonna be kind of like, oh wow, they don't get very many impressions, or I'm not getting very many impressions. I think it could turn out to be a turnoff. And like I'm just being realistic, right? Like if somebody signs up to focus in that first week or something and they have 25 followers, they're probably going to be getting like 20 impressions or something. Whereas on X, you get a lot more. So people are going to be comparing how drastically reduced the impression numbers are. So I would say, and Nader said this, like wait later, they can implement that later. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should launch with the pay per post, and maybe a year down the line or several months down the line, you can add that as a new feature, and it might attract more people to the platform too. So additionally, Robert Graham, I believe it's Robert Graham and a few others said that the unlocked incentive money, the 1 year wait period is too long. So I'm a creator. I come onto DSO. I start generating income through these incentives, the post to earn, etc., whatever other incentives they decide to implement. But it's locked, so I can't actually sell that focus token for a year. I'm earning them, I'm accruing them, I can see their value, but I can't actually offboard. I can't actually get money, get US dollars or get DSO or get Bitcoin in exchange for that for another year after that, after I earn it. And Alex Villeta has also mentioned this. So Natter suggested perhaps they could give creators a small percentage, 1% of their locked incentive earnings. So 1% would become unlocked. So it will allow them to have some liquidity and some, monetary benefit outside just the focus token in that 1 year period, but it won't let the community just dump and force the focus token to depreciate. The
Well,
other
so
issue is the
yes, so I was just gonna say, and maybe this is what you're gonna bring up. The other issue is that floor price, right? So if people start selling, even if it's 1% into that floor, it has the potential of eating away some of that floor and making it so that the floor isn't a floor anymore. What they could do is if it's a small amount and enough amount, they could just basically donate that amount and put that add to the floor so that it can take into account what the this demand, or the supply coming onto the market is. So that's something they do. So if it is 1%, that would be very minuscule in the whole scheme of things. They could easily put that up as part of the core team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think 1% would affect the floor price very much. Maybe like you lose a few hours off that 1 year guarantee if you do
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
this.
it could be built in. It could be built into the tokenomics as well. It doesn't have to be anybody putting it up. It could just be part of the tokenomics, this extra 1% of whatever the incentives are.
Yeah, very true. So Alex Villegas mentioned the busyness of the app, and it appears to be very busy, at least from his perspective. I tend to agree. I think it is a very busy app. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different things you can do. And on one hand, that's really awesome because it's something there for basically every type of creator. So, if you're an Instagram creator, if you're a Twitter creator, if you're a YouTube creator, if you're a blogger, you have all this at your fingertips that you can monetize yourself in ways that you can't monetize yourself on other social media platforms. But at the same time, the busyness might be confusing to some people, especially people who aren't used to a platform like this. Maybe like somebody from YouTube coming over who's not really used to X or Instagram. It could be overwhelming to some extent. And that's what Alex said. Nader, he tended to disagree with this. He said that they did take this into consideration, but they believe that if you keep everything simple and easy and straightforward, that busyness can be excused for. And I don't know. Like I I can see it from both sides. I think the busyness could be concerning to a small percentage of people, but at the same time, if it is easy and if it is straightforward and You can look at it and be like, oh, this is how I onboard. This is how I take my money out. This is how I do this and that and that. I think it can work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in between both of them. Like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like we need a lot of features, I think, in order to attract creators, but we also, if we have too many features, it's going to confuse new creators and new onboarding individuals, right? So like Friend Tech launched, it was super simple. It blew up, it took off. But then what happened is it kind of faded away because it wasn't feature rich and there wasn't enough to keep people interested and keep people there. So I don't know what the solution is. I think the solution is somewhere in between, right? So like not too complicated, but feature rich. But you can't have both. So it has to be somewhere in the middle. And I think that they have the experience with BitClout and all that they probably can feel out kind of what they need to do. And I think it is important that we do have this base of old users who can quickly point people in the right direction. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if they have the right solution. I don't know if they should listen to Alex. I Alex brings up really good points. But I think we don't know until we see it actually out in the open.
Yeah, but I mean, Alex always has great ideas, and I think it's always important to listen to his ideas because some of them are really phenomenal. But he also brought up BitClout branding, and this is something I think I agree with the dev team on and disagree with Alex
Yeah.
on. He said that he doesn't really believe they should have moved on from BitClout and completely changed the branding. There's a lot of talk about BitClout 2.0 back in the day and several months ago, and people are like, "Oh, BitClout 2.0, that's awesome." But there's a whole other side of things that there's people who genuinely believe that BitClout was a scam.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't a scam, but there's that belief because there's so much on social media that BitCloud is a scam. And there's so many people who really, really dislike the fact that usernames are reserved for celebrities. There's people who are really, really angry about that. So I think moving on from BitCloud is much better than keeping BitCloud branding.
There
Keeping
there
BitCloud,
was
go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say there was so much FUD out there, like whether it was a celebrity thing, which was an actual thing, but there's also, oh, you can't cash out when you actually could, and all of that. Like firsthand experience, I kind of I've gotten invited into several Twitter spaces or X spaces where BitCloud is a topic. And I really tried to shy away from them because everybody in those rooms were coming in and saying, oh, BitCloud was a scam. So I didn't want to be seen like talking positively about it because of these falsehoods about it, and everybody would think that I'm promoting a scam. So I think getting away from it, from my own experience on X, from people who don't truly understand what happened, the history of it, I think getting away from that name is a positive one. And I think from trying to attract VCs and investors into focus, I think if you call it BitCloud again, I don't think that's going to go over very well. So
I, I,
I
I think
agree
it
with
go,
Nader on this.
I think it goes over well with the BitClout OGs, right? But outside of that, it doesn't really. I think there's a lot of investors who didn't are kind
Well,
of
the
perturbed.
BitCloud OGs who aren't pissed off about something
Yeah,
about BitCloud, right? So
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. But I mean, a lot of VCs feel like they lost money. Of course, if they're still holding DSO, that it's only an unrealized loss that could eventually become a realized gain. But there was also, the whole bonding curve issue where in the beginning you couldn't sell. You could only buy. So it created this, upward motion. And then when it came to the exchanges, it kind of crashed things because everybody who wanted to sell could finally sell. So I think Focus takes care of all those issues. They fix all those issues.
So I'll cut you off a little bit. I mean, to be fair, Focus, you're not going to be able to sell it for at least a year, sometimes 4 years, depending on how much you have. But that's known. That's a known. So they're saying basically it's locked, right? Like you're basically staking D. So if you're buying it, if you're earning it, then it's locked for a year.
No, no,
You
no,
know
no.
that
But
going
but
forward.
Brian, you're missing my point here. On BitClout, people took their money, took their Bitcoin, took their bank accounts, bought BitClout, and then it was stuck in there
Right. right?
for over a year, right? I think it was over a
It,
year.
well, I
Like
mean,
this,
that's not entirely true. There were exchanges, like unofficial exchanges. There were people just buying and selling it on Discord,
that's true.
but it wasn't on Coinbase for a while. And I think that people were. I mean, remember the exchange that we lost 5,000 DSO in? Do you remember that?
I don't really remember. Oh yeah,
Well, yeah. So
yes.
going back, what was the guy's name? I can't remember who it was, but
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
a
the young kid who was like only
young
like
kid.
16 or 17 running the
He
exchange.
created an exchange, and then something happened, and it basically he lost the DSO, and it happened literally hours after we sent $50,000 to buy 5,000 DSO to the exchange,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
so to my point here is that focus, you're guaranteed within that year period, you can get your DSO back. Guaranteed instantly.
yeah,
You can be like, all right, I want
yeah.
my money back. You might actually make money. You can't lose, but you might actually make money.
Yeah,
So
it's a whole different setup, and that's where I was going with it. It might appear that it's locked in, and some of it's going to be locked up. All of it's going to be locked up, right? Except for I mean, all of it's locked up unless they decide to give some of the incentive bonus back to you early, right? So it's locked up, but at the same time, it's locked up. If you're paying for it, if you're buying it, it's all refundable if you want.
yeah, exactly. So I just noticed I look really yellow because of my lighting. You look red and I look yellow.
Yeah, Ed's having liver failure, I think.
But you know what? Look what my shirt
And
says.
I'm having a heart attack.
Look what my shirt says.
Well, so I have high blood pressure and you have liver failure and you think you look better because you have liver failure. I don't know.
No, we're not unhealthy. Okay, so final point I want to mention, Darian Parrish uh, made some comments about the the launch of the proof of stake, guys. Of course, it's the new revolution proof of stake consensus mechanism. They're going to have a 20% staking reward, up to a 20% APY. So he wanted to know if this was going to launch before or after the launch of Focus token. And Nader said it's actually going to launch right around the same time. So this makes you wonder, do you want to stake some DSO or do you want to buy some Focus token with your DSO?
Well, technically you could do both, right? You could buy it, take it out, and then get the bonus and then stake it. My biggest question would be, are creator coins going to be stakeable?
Interesting question.
Because if you can earn 20% with staking DSO, then are you earning 20% by holding a creator coin? I think that's definitely
Version one,
something you had to
probably
work
not,
out.
right? You're not with
Probably not
version
unless
one.
it's a major creator who's actually earning. So I don't know. Can you stake a creator coin? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, but our the new creator coins will be on Focus.
Yeah.
So if they are converted to Focus tokens, then that's separate, and they're no longer on DSO. They're just through the
Yeah.
Focus app. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. And we don't know if it's going to be 20%. It's up to 20%. So we'll wait and see how that goes. Of course, I would imagine if you don't stake your DSO, then you're going to be suffering from some inflationary issues, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends because is DSO is are you reducing the DSO at all? Is there any burn?
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, yeah. So the staking, I would assume, means that you get that extra inflation, right? The inflation goes to the stakers. Do you
Well,
understand what I
we
mean?
still,
The
yeah,
creation of the
yeah.
new DSO
Have we
token.
seen the tokenomics of how the staking will work on DSO and how the proof of stake will work? I
I
don't
have
know. I
not, so I'm
that might
not.
have happened when we were kind of away, so maybe we had to go back and read that.
Yeah, if anybody can answer that question, feel free to chime in. And I think that's all we have today. I think we discussed what we wanted to discuss. Anything to add, Brian?
Nope, that's it.
All right, everybody have a great rest of your day. Talk to you sometime soon.